Hi, Senators. I'm Anshu Kopparapu, a junior at Eastlake High School in Sammamish, Washington. Washington has had universal background checks for firearm purchases in place since 2014. How do you evaluate their effectiveness in improving public safety, and what, if any, changes would you support to address gun violence while also protecting the rights of lawful gun owners?
So, we do a lot of work around gun violence prevention in the state of Washington, especially since we had the referendum where all Washingtonians voted on saying that they wanted to make sure we were addressing gun violence protection in the form of background checks. So when we asked the state patrol to do background checks, they had to actually create an infrastructure where all the data that they needed could be available, which meant all our criminal justice databases had to talk to each other so they could do the background check. And in the beginning, it was a process because it took them a while to get to the point in time where they could do quick background checks. And so earlier, it would take anywhere up to 5 days to do it. Now they can do it very quickly, and that is how we evaluate the program. Very often, what you don't see during session is the work we do during the interim. We actually continue to have interim work sessions in each committee, and so often some of the ideas that we work on would be following up on programs that we have done. So last year, we actually got an update from the State Patrol on the firearm background check program to find out, what are the problems, how is it working? And we don't simply hear just from the State Patrol. We actually also hear from individuals, and we hear from the business community that is selling firearms to know what their experience is. So what we had found out that these background checks were doing very, very quickly. So the state actually came back a couple of years ago and did a 5-day waiting period, because we really want to make sure that when people are very agitated or passionate about something, we want to make sure that they have the ability to calm down before they go buy a weapon and engage in violence. And that is what we saw happening in other states, that there were a lot of mass shootings because of an incident that happened and someone wanted to react. So by doing a 5-day waiting period, we actually help address that. And so earlier we had the 5-day waiting period because our background check system was taking that long to do it. But when they became super effective, we actually had to put in law a waiting period. So that is how we evaluate how well a program is working, is really making sure we're checking up on implementation after we pass a bill, and then making sure it is being implemented the way it was intended. Because if you don't do the implementation, it doesn't matter what laws are on the book. It's just a good read. And so for any good policy, you got to do the follow-up and make sure that you're then ironing out any of the problems that may arise. So we continue to work on gun violence prevention. We are actually a state that has some of the best protections in the country. And I'll just say, during COVID, when we saw suicide rates going up all across this country, Washington was the only state that had a reduction in suicide. And I fundamentally believe it's because we had passed a law that said, if you are a danger to yourself or others, or gravely disabled because of a severe mental illness, you lose your right to possess a firearm for 6 months. And I think that delay of 6 months because of your mental state helped people get treatment and not take their own lives.
Well, that's a great question. I'm glad you focused on the protection of the rights of lawful gun owners also. But as you point out that the mandatory and enhanced background check was put in place with 594 in 2014. So they called it at the time expanded background checks, because the NICS check, the National Information Background Check, was put in place after the Brady Bill in 1994. The focus was to create a single depository of a place where people that were not able to purchase firearms legally from felonies, etc., at the FBI, so that you could, in fact, protect the rights of lawful gun owners by having a quick way of checking if they were able to legally purchase a firearm. So that was 1994. And then they turned around and said, well, we need enhanced background check. We need the Washington State Patrol to do a state background check. That took in place with 594, as you point out, in 2014. And then 1639 comes into place, and they called it an enhanced background check. So how many background checks could you possibly need? But the real problem was not in doing background checks for people that were attempting to buy a firearm. The real problem was whether state agencies and federal government agencies were reporting to the NICS instant background check. So in 2017, for example, a person attacked a church in Texas, and that person was dishonorably discharged from the Air Force. Now, being dishonorably discharged disqualifies you from being able to purchase a firearm, but the Air Force never reported that to the NICS instant background check. And then also you have cases where people are put into mental institution. That also is a reason why you cannot buy a firearm. And it's important. The problem isn't in the background checks. The problem is in reporting this information to the FBI so that it is included in the instant background check. And that will protect lawful firearm owners. And as a firearm owner, I do not want somebody who's not able to buy a firearm because they committed a felony, they're mentally unbalanced, etc., dishonorably discharged. It's not in my interest as a lawful firearm owner to have those people purchase firearms. So the real problem, again, is the reporting, making sure that the reporting goes to the instant background check so that when you do this background check, you actually get some information on whether or not that person is lawfully able to purchase a firearm. And a great question, though. Thank you.